Hello, fourth grade. It's Miss Moore again. So for this week's reading lesson, I'm really excited because I chose to do a text with you about fossil fuels and non-renewable resources. Now, if you remember back when we were actually in school, we did a whole unit on fossil fuels and non-renewable resources. Remember when we wrote an opinion piece about if the school should use solar power or natural gas to provide electricity for the school? If you remember, natural gas is non-renewable because once it's over, you can't make it again. It can't be used again. But solar power is renewable because it's never going to go away and you can use it over and over. So I'm really excited about this week's text because it's like the same topic, but now we're only focusing on the non-renewable resources, the fossil fuels, okay, like coal. Remember, coal is those little black rocks looking things that you use in your grill to make hamburgers and hot dogs, or gasoline. Gas is what you put in your car to make the car go, or oil. Oil is also used in your car. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a little bit of background to remember what we talked about when we learned about the non-renewable resources. So now let's read our story. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Here it is. Fossil fuels. Fossil fuels power the modern world, but they also pollute and warm it. Do you remember a picture like this? So this is a picture of a factory, or we call it an industry. Manufacturing things. Manufacture means to make things. Like maybe they make parts for a car, or they could make plastic bottles, or anything like that. Most factories that make something, they produce pollution into the air because they're using fossil fuels to provide energy for the machines. All right, let's start reading. Now, for this story, really quickly, each subheading or paragraph has a box to where we're going to write a topic and text structure. And then I've given you the main idea question, so your job is to answer the question with a sentence. I've done that for all of these, okay? Also, when we get to the bottom with the questions match with the paragraph color, but the answer is in bold. So you see how I've bolded some things? That's because the bolded is the answers to the questions. Okay, so let's start back at the top. Ready? Follow along with me as I read. Fossil fuels are used as a source of energy. This energy fuels our cars, heats our homes, and lights our schools. Fossil fuels are from nature and formed millions of years ago. Examples of fossil fuels are oil, gas, and coal. We talked about that. People used fossils more and more when new manufacturing processes came about. By the early 2000s, almost all of the world's energy supplies were from fossil fuels. But fossil fuels are non-renewable resources, which means once we use them, they are gone forever. We knew that already. It takes millions of years for more fossil fuels to be made. Okay, so this is the chunk for paragraph 1 and 2. What is the topic of this paragraph? Fossil fuels for sure. And I think that the text structure is description because it is telling us all about fossil fuels. It's describing what fossil fuels are, okay? So here's my question. What is a fossil fuel and what is it used for? So if you go back up here, it says examples of fossil fuels are oil, gas, and coal. So I'll say fossil fuels are oil, gas, and coal. And then it says, what are they used for? Let's see. Almost all of the world's energy is supplied by fossil fuels. Say, let's see. Fossil, oh, I spelled it wrong. Oops. Fossil, okay. Fossil fuels are oil, gas, and coal, and they are used for energy. There's my main idea answer. All right, I'm going to delete this because you have to put your own answer in there. Okay, moving down, let's keep reading. Coal. Coal is one of the most used fossil fuels. Almost 1/3 of all the electricity in the US comes from coal. 1/3 of all the electricity in the US comes from coal. That's pretty interesting. Most coal formed from plants that grew in or near swamps, which happened about 359 to 299 million years ago. Whoa, that was a long time ago. First, dead plant matter fell into the swamps and settled at the bottom. This formed peat. Over time, more layers of sediment covered the peat. Pressure and heat. So pressure is when it's pushed, and heat is when it's hot. Pressure and heat change the peat into soft coal. Then more heat and pressure changed it into even harder forms of coal. Hard coals are considered the best kind of coal. They burn the hottest and do not release any pollutants into the air as other types of coal do. Okay, so the topic here is coal and the text structure. Now I highlighted and underlined 3 important words that are showing me the text structure. First, over time, and then. So it's telling me how the coal was formed in a certain order. So what do we call the text structure about order? Starts with an S. You got it, sequence. There it is, the text structure is sequence. So the question is, how was coal formed? So our answer, we're not gonna write all of this. So we have to put it in our own words. So coal was formed from, let's say, dead plants that had pressure and heat that changed it into coal. That had pressure and heat and changed it to coal. Okay, there's our answer. All right, let's keep going. Petroleum and natural gas. That's a funny word, petroleum. But petroleum is actually what you call the gas that you put into your car. They call it petroleum. Petroleum is the gas that's in your car. All right, petroleum or oil and natural gas formed through a similar process, often in the same swampy location. They were made from the buried body parts of tiny water organisms. The organisms died and sank to the muddy swamp bottom. Then it changed into a substance called kerogen. Over 1 million years, heat and pressure changed the kerogen into petroleum. Some of the petroleum was liquid and some was gas. The main liquid fossil fuels used today are made from oil. These include gasoline, diesel, and jet fuels, and oils used for heat. Kerosene was used a long time ago to provide light. It is still used in many places for cooking and is also the main fuel for jet engines. Natural gas is used for heating, cooking, and to generate electricity. So for your topic, you would say natural gas. And our text structure, there's actually two that I see, because at the top it was showing you the same process. So it was showing you a sequence of how the gas is made, but also down here, it's giving you a description of what the fossil fuels were used for. So I'm going to say description for this one, but also sequence would have worked if we talked about the top part. And then question is, what is liquid oil and gas used for? Well, I see the main uses for fossil fuels. Liquid fossil fuels used today are made from oil. These include gasoline, diesel, and jet fuels, and oil used for heat. There's my answer. Also, I can say it's used in many places for cooking and also for jet engines, okay? All right, for the last one, I'm not going to tell you what these are. I'm not going to type it in there, but we will talk about it. Disadvantages of fossil fuels. There are two major problems with fossil fuels. I see the word problem. That already gives me a hint for the text structure. The supplies are limited, which means not very much of it is left. And they cause environmental harm, which means it's bad for the world around us. Burning petroleum and coal releases harmful gases into the air. These gases pollute the air and create acid rain. Burning fossil fuels puts carbon dioxide into the air. Over the years, this has increased the amount of carbon dioxide in the air. Scientific evidence shows this increase in temperatures. This warming of the Earth's atmosphere is called the greenhouse effect. Oh, that's probably important. Let me highlight that. The greenhouse effect. It contributes to climate change, which is a serious environmental concern. Climate change is when the climate, which is the weather outside, when it changes and it gets hotter and hotter and hotter. That's not good for the Earth. These problems, there's our problem again, have led to new technology. Scientists and engineers are developing new ways to generate power without using fossil fuels. For example, some cars use electricity instead of gasoline to drive. Homes can be heated using energy from the sun, and some electric power plants use power from wind or water. Oh, so we learned what the problem was, but then at the bottom, they gave us the solution, how they're solving the problem. That's our text structure, problem, solution. These other energy sources are forms of renewable resources. This means, unlike fossil fuels, they cannot go away. We learned that already. Also, they do not emit carbon dioxide, which can help fight climate change. Okay, so we already talked about what the text structure was. Now the question, what is the problem with fossil fuels and how are we solving it? We just talked about that. The problem is that the gases are polluting the air and that it's causing an environmental concern. The solution is this part. that we are now using electricity instead of gasoline, and that the homes are getting heated from the sun instead of using the gas. All right, let's look at our questions. Question number 1. What selection from the article best supports the idea that petroleum and coal are bad for the earth? I know it's in green, so I'm going to go back up here. Remember, I said that it's going to be bolded. All right, so I bolded the green here because there's a lot of stuff that's green, but that's more so for this part. So I've bolded the answers to the questions. Bolded means it's darker. Burning petroleum and coal releases harmful gases into the air. These gases pollute the air and create acid rain. Let's keep going because there's more bolded. It contributes to climate change, which is a serious environmental concern. Climate change is the greenhouse effect. So let's go back and look. A says, fossil fuels include petroleum, natural gas, and coal. They are used to run factories, heat homes, and power cars. Well, that's true, but that's not the problem. B says, because it says that coals are bad for the earth. So that's not saying why it's bad. Let me bold this bad word because that's important. All right, burning fossil fuels creates the greenhouse gases, which causes climate change. That's what we read. That's what's bad. It's changing the climate. It's making it too hot. C, in ancient times, some people used hot gases from inside the earth to heat their homes. Again, that's not a bad thing. So it has to be talking about the climate change. Number 2, what are fossil fuels? Let's go back to the yellow. Remember, we're looking for the bolded answer in yellow. Okay, so examples of fossil fuels are oil, gas, and coal. There's more bolded. Fossil fuels are non-renewable resources, which means once we use them, they are gone forever. Okay, let's go down. What are fossil fuels? Cars, homes, and schools, non-renewable resources, or renewable resources? We just read it. We should know what that is, and you should know this from before when we studied it in school. All right, number 3. Why is coal one of the most used fossil fuels? All right, let's go back up to the blue. Looking for the bolded answers in blue. Here we go. Coal is one of the most used fossil fuels. Almost 1/3 of all the electricity in the US comes from coal. There it is. See if we can find it. A says, because it takes 1 million years for fossil fuels to be made. That's not why it's the most used. Because almost 1/3 of all the electricity in the US comes from coal. That's what we just read. C, because hard coals are considered the best kind of coal. That may be true, but that's not why it's the most used. So we found the answer. Number 4 is also blue, so we're going to have to go to the same paragraph. What is the text structure of the subheading coal? So we're looking for text structure. You already wrote it into the box. Let's go back up to the blue. Remember, we said that it had first, over time, and then. So that was the sequence. Putting it in order, a sequence. Okay, there's my answer. Problem solution, cause effect, or sequence. Highlight the right one. Last one. What is the purpose of the last subheading? So this is kind of like text structure. What is the purpose of writing this text? So let's go back. It's going to be in green. So remember, it says that we're talking about the 2 problems of fossil fuels. It tells us about the problems, and then it says these problems had led to new technology. And then it tells us the way that they solved the problem. So the whole paragraph, the purpose of the paragraph was to tell us the problems from fossil fuels and how we're solving that problem. Let's see if we can go find our answer. Number 5 says, to explain why fossil fuels are a problem and how we're trying to fix it. That looks right. B says, to compare fossil fuels to other energy resources. We're not really comparing them. That means saying how they're the same and different. Although we did do that, that's not the whole purpose. And C, to explain how scientists are saving our Earth. Well, it says that at the end of the paragraph, that's how we're trying to solve it, but that says nothing about the problem. So it has to be problem and how we're solving it. All right, so highlight your answer. Okay, guys, there you go. You should be able to get a 100 on this because we went over it together. Okay, I'll see you next week.